This is Atomic Biscuits, and I'm your host, BACFA. Welcome to another episode of Atomic Biscuits. This is episode 2025-0622, Devil's Bargain. I'm going to start out at dailycaller.com with the article, Will American Allies' Crippling Covert Strikes Be Wake-Up Call for United States? This is by Wallace White. China has the capacity to execute a covert strike on the United States, not unlike Israel's recent use of weaponized drones inside Iranian territory, defense experts told the Daily Caller. China has multiple potential avenues of subterfuge in the United States, including its ownership of farmland around military bases, its surveillance of American energy infrastructure, and its frequent presence in America's shipping docks. Experts told us that China putting together an operation is not out of the realm of possibilities given the nation's existing foothold in the United States, and that's not to mention TikTok. China is pre-positioning its own capabilities, but not necessarily to go after our military assets, Michael Sobolik, senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, told us. They are working to have the capability to sabotage our own critical infrastructure. They are laying the foundation now to cripple us, paralyze us at home, and send us back to 19th century lifestyle without the modern conveniences of functioning electricity and functioning internet. Chinese nationals own farmland around at least 19 military bases, while other Chinese nationals have on multiple occasions been caught trying to infiltrate military bases. The second largest foreign owner of farmland in the United States is Chinese billionaire Chen Tiankao, chairman and CEO of global investment firm Shanda Group. China's ownership of land and other assets around military bases produces a broad threat, Michael Lucci, CEO of State Armor, told Daily Caller. And so at a more basic level, there's the threat that through signals collection and other espionage, they would be able to develop pattern of life recognition for key commanders who serve on that base. And then you can scale that all the way up to kind of an Israeli-Ukrainian example of being able to execute against objectives on that base in the event of China going for Taiwan. So that proximity produces peril. In addition to farmland, China has made efforts to survey and potentially sabotage American energy centers, with the United States reportedly finding devices in May capable of remotely triggering blackouts on many Chinese-made solar panels. Moreover, cybercriminals tied to China have targeted federal officials and agencies, telecommunications companies, and other utility infrastructure since the beginning of 2023. Additionally, lawmakers have long had concerns with Chinese drones made by Dajiang Industries, or DJI, potential to spy on Americans, with the company lifting its geofencing restrictions on its products that prevented them from flying over military bases, airports, and other locations. Sobolik said the drones can already be used to potentially survey energy infrastructure. DJI alone produces an estimated 70% of the world's drones. The warnings that the U.S. government has put out about them are about their ability to surveil from an aerial vantage point the United States electrical grid and then to send that surveillance back to China, Sobolik told us. Drones have often been weaponized in warfare as flying explosive devices which have been utilized to devastating effect on the modern battlefield. Most notably, Ukraine smuggled drones into Russia territory over the course of months before launching an attack on Russia's strategic bomber assets. Israel both used drones and missiles smuggled into a secret base in Iran to strike an Air Force defense targets deep behind enemy lines, paving the way for Israeli Air Force. China has also made intrusions into America's shipping docks with a congressional investigation in 2024 finding peculiar communications devices on shipping dock equipment sourced from China. Moreover, Chinese company Costco, that's C-O-S-C-O, operates within American shipping yards despite having ties to the People's Liberation Army. Sobolik also warned that China could easily conceal something like a missile or drones in a cargo container and position it miles off American shores. It would not be difficult to put a missile on top of a big tanker, Sobolik told the Daily Caller. That's easy, and it would be fairly easy to conceal it and have that big cargo vessel sitting off the coast of the United States. That is definitely a threat vector, and that is a problem. While American companies also exert considerable influence in China, the government keeps a much closer eye on their activities compared to the United States government's stance on Chinese entities, Liu Qi told the Daily Caller. The Chinese government is far more suspect of anything American on its shores. Many times those American production companies that offshore to China in order to access the Chinese production market and to get that cheap labor and things like that, they have to create a joint venture with a Chinese company, Liu Qi told the Daily Caller. China has made military hardware capable of launching drones from a covert location with one model designed to look like an innocuous truck, only to house 48 kamikaze drones inside. Such technology is relatively novel and has rapidly evolved since drone warfare came into vogue on the battlefield during the Russia-Ukraine conflict starting in 2022. There are threat vectors that the CCP is cultivating in many different directions and many different domains, and it's like we don't have the luxury of a simple one silver bullet solution here, Sobolik told the Daily Caller. This is why these vulnerabilities were not exploited overnight, and they will not be resolved overnight. Again, that's the story over at dailycaller.com. I mean, I think it's pretty widely known. It doesn't take long to find a Google search that returns information about these missile batteries disguised as a shipping container. And the top pops up, and there you have it. Off they go. It wouldn't be hard to take shipping containers and place them all over the place, especially with Belt and Road initiatives, getting Chinese stuff deep into ports. And if you look at how these international zones operate near the ports, some of them are quite far inland. One told me that you can get a shipping container without it ever crossing customs as deep as Las Vegas from the LA port system. Now, what might you traffic in those places, and what might you be able to transport back and forth through that corridor? That's pretty significant travel inland. So we need to keep an eye on just what's coming and going. I think the tariff system, while it is onerous on us as trying to figure out, are we going to be paying more for stuff, has a much deeper need. It makes sure that everything is accounted for coming and going and investigated even slightly, as opposed to just checking off a checkbox and letting it come on through. Next, we have a story from redstate.com, Essex Files. Gold Bar Bob finally behind bars. Justice delayed, not denied. This is by Brad Essex. Back in January, I wrote that prosecutors were absolutely right to push for serious jail time for Bob Menendez, a man who turned his Senate office into a garage sale for foreign agents. At the time, some thought the DOJ might go soft. They didn't. And now Gold Bar Bob is right back where he belongs, behind bars. It's not every day a former U.S. Senator reports to federal prison to serve 11 years for bribery, obstruction, and, let's not forget, acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. But here we are. For the first time in American history, a senator has been convicted of literally selling out his country. Menendez served as a member of the United States House of Representatives from New Jersey's 13th District from January 1993 to January 2006, and then as a U.S. Senator from New Jersey from January 17th, 2006 to August 20th, 2024, replacing John Corzine when he became governor of New Jersey. This is what happens when arrogance meets unchecked power. The man who once chaired the Senate Foreign Relations Committee now calls FCI Schuylkill in Pennsylvania home. Quite the fall for someone who thought that the speech or debate clause in the Constitution was a get-out-of-jail-free card. Let's talk about what the FBI found. $480,000 in cash hidden in closets and envelopes, a $60,000 Mercedes-Benz convertible, and gold bars worth over $100,000. This guy was living like a Bond villain. If this was a Netflix drama, you'd call it unrealistic. But this was real life, and it was funded by influence peddling, shell companies, and foreign operatives. And still, Menendez tried to paint himself as the victim, claimed he was being targeted for his political views, even tried to channel Trump for sympathy. Sorry, Bob, this wasn't a witch hunt. This was a long overdue reckoning. In my January article, I observed, if we want to restore faith in the system, we'll have to prove it's not rigged for the powerful and well-connected. That statement rings even louder today. Justice didn't forget Bob Menendez, it just took its time. But let's not pretend this is the end of the story. Menendez is just one example of a broader rot in D.C. We've got a culture in Washington that rewards longevity over integrity. The longer you stay, the more doors you open, not for the people, but for your own profit. The American people are sick of watching elites skate while the average guy gets crushed for minor offenses. It's not just about Menendez. It's about what he represents, the political class that thinks the rules don't apply to them. They trade on your vote and laugh all the way to their luxury condos. Menendez finally being held accountable is a win, but it's only one battle. If we really want reform, we'll need to keep exposing corruption, cutting off the gravy trains, and demanding consequences that don't come with a golden parachute. Bob Menendez thought he could hide behind his power. Today, he's behind bars instead. And that's exactly where he should be. Well, the search for making America healthy again has made its way to old potato face John Kerry's family fortune, the one he married into. This story is from ZeroHedge.com. Kraft Heinz will no longer launch products in the United States with artificial colors. It was by Tyler Durden. That name seems familiar. It's a reprint from the Epoch Times. Kraft Heinz said on Tuesday that it will not launch any new products with artificial colors in the U.S. and will remove the additives from its existing product portfolio by the end of 2027. The company added that, by net sales, nearly 90% of its U.S. products are already free of food, drug, and cosmetic colors. That's FD&C. For the remaining products, the company will remove colors not critical to the consumer experience, replace them with natural alternatives, or create new colors and shades when alternatives are not available. The company's June 17th announcement follows a call by the Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, along with the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, phase out all petroleum-based synthetic dyes from the nation's food supply. For too long, some food producers have been feeding Americans petroleum-based chemicals without their knowledge or consent. That was the quote by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on April 22nd. Kennedy said that the poisonous compounds offered no nutritional benefits and adversely impacted children's health and development. He said the department was working with the industry to get rid of the toxic dyes from the food supply. FDA Commissioner Marty Makary said the agency asked food companies to substitute artificial colors with natural ingredients for American children, as they already do in Europe and Canada, citing an epidemic of childhood diabetes, obesity, depression, and ADHD. In Tuesday's statement, Heinz said the company had used FD&C colors since it had a long-standing history of approval from the FDA. Kraft Heinz North America President Pedro Navio said that most of his company's products use natural or no colors. In fact, we removed artificial colors, preservatives, and flavors from our beloved Kraft mac and cheese back in 2016, Navio said. Our iconic Heinz tomato ketchup has never had artificial dyes. The red color comes simply from the world's best tomatoes. Above all, we are focused on providing nutritious, affordable, and great-tasting food for Americans, and this is a privilege we don't take lightly. Companies including cereal manufacturer WK Kellogg, meatpacker Tyson Foods, and Walmart's Sam's Club have announced plans to remove artificial dyes from their product lines following the HHS announcement. The Consumer Brands Association, which represents manufacturers, said food colors have been widely used in the supply chain because they were deemed safe. The ingredients used in America's food supply have been rigorously studied following an objective science and risk-based evaluation process and have been demonstrated to be safe, the association said in an April 22nd statement in response to the HHS decision to ban food dyes. As we increase the use of alternative ingredients, food and beverage companies will not sacrifice science or the safety of our products. The association also asked the HHS and FDA to develop a coordinated set of rules when setting food regulations. The state patchwork of differing laws creates confusion for consumers, limits access to everyday goods, deters innovation, and increases costs at the grocery store, it said. The International Association of Color Manufacturers, the IACM, representing the interests of the color additives industry, said in a statement that despite common misconceptions, synthetic FD&C colors are approved and continue to be used worldwide, including in Europe. The IACM's website lists Fast Green number 3 as approved for use in the United States, but not authorized for food use in the European Union or the UK. FD&C Red number 40, Yellow number 5, Yellow number 6, Quinoline Yellow, Azarubine, Carmosine, and Ponzo 4R, Cochineal Red A, are listed as being subject to a warning on European labels. Proposing reformulation within 2026 ignores scientific evidence and underestimates the complexity of food production. This process is neither simple nor immediate, and the resulting supply disruptions will limit access to familiar, affordable grocery items. IACM and its members remain committed to science-based dialogue on color additives, the IACM said. According to the HHS, authorization for 2 synthetic food colorings, Citrus Red number 2 and Orange B, will be revoked within the coming months. 6 dyes, FD&C Green number 3, FD&C Red number 40, FD&C Yellow number 5, FD&C Yellow number 6, FD&C Blue number 1, and FD&C Blue number 2 will be eliminated from the food supply by the end of next year. FD&C Red number 3 will also be removed. 4 new natural color additives will be authorized soon, and the agency has partnered with the National Institutes of Health to conduct comprehensive research on how food additives impact children's health and development. Health officials said the administration had not yet made a formal deal with corporations on food dyes. There are a lot of tools at our disposal, Macri said. Let's start in a friendly way. I imagine that we're going to see a lot fewer flavors of color when it comes to M&Ms and Skittles and some of these things. And when you start looking at what is in this junk, I remember when FD&C Yellow number 5 had been determined to be cancer-causing, I do believe, and that this was still in the product. And I can remember getting M&Ms from my grandmother at Christmas as part of a stocking. And, of course, I was young and stupid and complained by saying, oh, this has Yellow number 5 in it. It causes cancer. Guess what? We never got again M&Ms in our stocking. We would just get the orange and the socks and other things, which is fine. But I ruined it for the whole crew. But we don't need to be eating this stuff. And especially when you start looking at what is edible shellac and where does it come from. It might change whether you decide that candy is worth crunching on. Because it's kind of gross. Anyway, that story is over at zerohedge.com. Speaking of the science, let's look at LiveScience.com. This article by Joanna Thompson is titled Artificial Intelligence is Not a Miracle Cure. Nobel laureate raises questions about AI-generated image of black hole spinning at the heart of our galaxy. Researchers have used an AI model to create a new image of the black hole at the center of our galaxy, but some experts are skeptical of the results. And I'm thinking to myself, of course it is. It's invented. It's trying to refine something that there's no data on. It's using its imagination, which means it's making stuff up. The article continues. The monster black hole at the center of our galaxy is spinning at near top speed, according to a new artificial intelligence model. The model, trained partially on complex telescope data that was previously considered too noisy to be useful, aims to create the most detailed black hole images ever. However, based on the questionable quality of the data, not all experts are convinced that the AI model is accurate. I'm very sympathetic and interested in what they're doing. Reinhard Genzel, an astrophysicist at the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics in Germany, and one of the winners of the 2020 Nobel Prize in Physics, told Live Science. But artificial intelligence is not a miracle cure. For decades, scientists have been trying to observe and characterize Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy. In May 2022, they unveiled the first ever image of this enormous object, but there were still a number of questions, such as how it behaves. Now, an international team of scientists has attempted to harness the power of AI to glean more information about Sagittarius A from its data collected by Event Horizon Telescope, EHT. Unlike some telescopes, the EHT doesn't reside in a single location. Rather, it is composed of several linked instruments scattered across the globe that work in tandem. The EHT uses long electromagnetic waves, up to a millimeter in length, to measure the radius of the photons surrounding a black hole. However, this technique, known as very long baseline interferometry, is very susceptible to interference from water vapor in Earth's atmosphere. This means it can be tough for researchers to make sense of the information the instruments collect. It's very difficult to deal with data from the Event Horizon Telescope, Michael Janssen, an astrophysicist at Radboud University in the Netherlands and co-author of the study, told Live Science. A neural network is ideally suited to solve this problem. Janssen and his team trained an AI model on EHT data that had been previously discarded for being too noisy. In other words, there was too much atmospheric static to decipher information using classical techniques. Through this AI technique, they generated a new image of Sagittarius A's structure, and their picture revealed some new features. For example, the black hole appears to be spinning at almost top speed, the researchers said in a statement, and its rotational axis also seems to be pointing toward Earth. Their results were published this month in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics. Pinpointing the rotational speed of Sagittarius A would give scientists clues about how radiation behaves around supermassive black holes and offer insight into the stability of the disk of matter around it. However, not everyone is convinced that the new AI is totally accurate. According to Genzel, the relatively low quality of the data going into the model could have biased it in unexpected ways. As a result, the new image may be somewhat distorted, he said, and shouldn't be taken at face value. In the future, Janssen and his team plan to apply their technique to the latest EHT data and measure it against real-world results. They hope this analysis will help to refine the model and improve future simulations. That's over at LiveScience.com. I'll leave the link to all the articles I cover on this week's show out on my account at Gab. You can find me at BACFA. It stands for Bread and Circuses for America. TheBlaze.com had this story: weak Emasculated leader. Ex-Vikings player blames Tim Walz for Minnesota killings. This is by Andrew Chapados. Former defensive back Jack Brewer said Minnesota leadership has been pathetic in handling the state. Former NFL player blamed Democrat Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for the chaos that has engulfed the state in recent years. Jack Brewer, who played for the Minnesota Vikings and the University of Minnesota, said Walz and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison have put the state in a spiral, turning it into a place that does not reflect the people of Minnesota. We need to start calling this for what it is. These people have lost their minds, Brewer told Fox News. I am heartbroken to see one of the most amazing states in America completely turned around under Governor Tim Walz. Minnesota is confused. After a man named Vance Luther Belter was charged with the murder of a top Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, Brewer said the incident was a direct result of Democrats and Walz's leadership. The former NFL player said there needs to be a return to masculinity in order to turn the state around. On this Father's Day, I wish Minnesota would focus on restoring fatherhood, protecting women, protecting families. Tim Walz is an example of a weak, emasculated leader. That's not what God made fathers to be. It's pathetic, Brewer told Fox News. Brewer described Minnesota as the capital of chaos in America and said Democrats have gone so far left that their party members attack anyone who does not agree with their principles. They are forcing everyone in the party to conform, Brewer's comments to Fox News continued. The former defensive back added that the root cause of the problem in the state can simply be labeled evil. When you give Satan power, he shows his face. That's what we're witnessing now. Brewer has also been a Donald Trump supporter for years and was allegedly a Democrat until he was inspired by the president to change course. In early 2020, Brewer declared Trump the first black president and said he was changed and inspired by him to keep doing God's work by reaching out to inmates in prison, according to The Hill. In 2019, Brewer predicted that a black awakening would give Trump a 20% black vote in the upcoming election, but only 12% was garnered, per the Roper Center. Brewer was in the NFL for 4 seasons, playing for the Vikings, New York Giants, and Philadelphia Eagles. Again, that's over at theblaze.com. Democrats chase Trump's laser pointer on immigration. Some commentary by J.T. Young over at realclearwire.com. In his first term, Trump chased Democrat laser pointer. Now they're chasing his. No issue illustrates this like immigration. It's become the Democrats' red dot. Whenever, wherever, and however Trump moves it, Democrats can't help pouncing. In his first term, Trump reacted to everything Democrats and the establishment media did. He couldn't help himself, as though always compensating for having lost the 2016 popular vote. Forever taking their bait, his tweets poured forth. His frequently abrupt policy and political changes cost him on Obamacare and popular support too. Throughout his first term, Trump never had a favorable job approval rating in the Real Clear Politics average of national polls. In his second term, circumstances have markedly reversed. Democrats have been reacting to Trump since before he took office, if not since before he won it. Even before his inauguration, Democrat leaders ran to microphones to announce their defiance. As they did, they picked politically questionable issues. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker proclaimed he was opening his state to more transgender surgeries. California Governor Newsom proclaimed support for electric vehicle credits. When Trump talked about a third term, even with the Constitution clearly blocking it, Democrats and the established media were apoplectic. Once in office, they were opposed to DOGE with equal vehemence. In short, if Trump proposed it, Democrats opposed it. They couldn't help taking the bait. However, of all the things Trump has pursued, nothing has exorcised Democrats like his crackdown on illegal immigration. New Jersey's governor, boldly proclaiming he was harboring an illegal immigrant, dared ICE to come until ICE said they intended to. Democrat officials stormed a New Jersey ICE holding center. When a Milwaukee judge was arrested for helping an illegal immigrant avoid ICE capture, Democrats rallied around her, despite a judge's job being one of impartiality on cases before the bench. When Kilmar Obrego Garcia was deported from Maryland, the accused MS-13 gang member became a Democrat cause célèbre. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat from Maryland, went to El Salvador to have cocktails with Garcia. Other Democrat members of Congress followed. Nationwide, Democrats have prominently counseled illegal immigrants on evading ICE. Still, the Los Angeles uprising over the last several days took Democrat efforts, or lack thereof when it comes to enforcement, to another level. Mayor Karen Bass, who already had bungled wildfires that caused enormous damage, and Governor Gavin Newsom stood by as the city descended into anarchic chaos from protests over ICE doing its job. Trump called in the National Guard. Next, the Marines. Newsom called press conferences and sued. He sought to cast himself as a political paladin, a knight-errant in defense of not enforcing immigration law. The better term for Newsom and the rest of the Democrats rallying to the cause of blocking the deportation of immigrants in the country illegally would be knights in error. More accurate in terms of immigration and law enforcement policy, it would be more accurate still in terms of politics. Having already given Trump a winning issue, they are now gift-wrapping it in images, attacking law enforcement, rioters, outside agitators, destruction, looting, burned-out vehicles, a city aflame. Each picture a winner for Trump, each one a loser for Democrats. To understand how big a loser these visuals are for Democrats, just look at the polling numbers. Real Clear's final average for President Biden's job approval on crime was 38% approval and 59% disapproval, a negative 21 percentage point margin. On immigration, Biden's final job approval average was 33.5% approval and 64.8% disapproval, a negative 31.3 percentage point margin. With negatives like these, why did Democrats insist on fighting on this terrain? Why Trump does is clear. His job approval on immigration is 51.5% versus 47% disapproval, a positive 4.5 percentage points. The figures on reduced illegal immigration and overall crime since he took office only burnish the law and order credentials Democrats are thrusting on him. Even in California, increased law enforcement is a winner. California's ballot measure that increased penalties for shoplifting and drug possession and undid an earlier ballot measure relaxing these passed overwhelmingly last November. Non-diluted Democrats have also voiced their concerns with picking this losing fight. Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat from Texas, and Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, have both had the temerity to swim against Democrat lemming tide. Immigration has become a laser pointer for Trump to use on the Democrats. With every flash of the red dot, Democrats instinctively respond, each time believing one more pat of the paw, one more snap of the jaw, and they will have seized what is forever a pounce away. It's not true that Democrats don't have an agenda. They do. Trump's agenda has them. And on immigration, it has Democrats right where Trump wants them. This is over at realclearwire.com.
just getting started.
Oh, I love you, Ken.
One American News at OANN.com had the story, U.S. Treasury Department, blue-collar wage growth sees largest increase in almost 60 years under Trump. This is posted on Tuesday, June 17th. Blue-collar workers have reportedly experienced their most significant wage growth under any administration in nearly 6 decades. Blue-collar refers to workers who typically perform manual labor or skilled trades, often in industries such as construction, manufacturing, maintenance, transportation, warehousing, etc. New data from the U.S. Department of the Treasury showed a 1.7% pay bump compared to the negative growth under former President Joe Biden. Negative growth signifies a decrease in a measured quantity over time where the growth rate is below zero. The report also noted that Trump has been the only president to record positive growth for blue-collar workers in his first 5 months since former GOP President Richard Nixon. The only other time it's been this high was during President Trump's first term, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told the New York Post. We've seen real wages for hourly workers, non-supervisory workers, rise almost 2% in the first 5 months. No president has done that before. Bessent went on to explain that the rising U.S. blue-collar wage growth has been fueled by the GOP president's emphasis on manufacturing and commitment to removing illegal immigrants. Biden opened the border and it was flooded, said Bessent, and for working Americans, that's a disaster because it's pressure on the wages. Trump's team has also assured that if the One Big Beautiful bill passes the Senate as early as July, the economy will benefit from a double whammy of lower inflation and rising wages. The budget reconciliation package includes specific aid for unskilled or blue-collar workers promised by Trump during last year's presidential campaign, such as no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. The bill would also repeal federal income taxes on overtime compensation for more than 80 million hourly workers in areas such as manufacturing, construction, and first responders who frequently rely on overtime for income. Tax breaks for firms to develop U.S. facilities are expected to produce up to 6 million blue-collar jobs in construction and manufacturing. That's over at OANN.com. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. That's the song that I remember from the 90s. ArsTechnica.com had this story. Toy maker Mattel accused of planning reckless AI social experiment on kids. Mattel faces pressure to be more transparent about OpenAI partnership. This is by Ashley Belanger. After Mattel and OpenAI announced a partnership that would result in an AI product marketed to kids, a consumer rights advocacy group is warning that the collaboration may endanger children. It remains unclear what shape Mattel's first AI product will take. However, on Tuesday, Public Citizen co-president Robert Weissman issued a statement urging more transparency so that parents can prepare for potential risks. Weissman is particularly concerned that ChatGPT-fueled toys could hurt kids in unknown ways. Endowing toys with human-seeming voices that are able to engage in human-like conversations risk inflicting real damage on children, Weissman said. It may undermine social development, interfere with children's ability to form peer relationships, pull children away from playtime with peers, and possibly inflict long-term harm. One anonymous source told Axios that Mattel's plans for the AI partnership are still in early stages, so perhaps more will be revealed as Mattel gears up for its first launch. That source suggested that the first product would not be marketed to kids under 13, which some think suggests that Mattel may recognize that exposing younger kids to AI is possibly a step too far at this stage, but more likely it's due to OpenAI age restrictions on its API prohibiting use under 13 years of age. Parents shouldn't be blindsided by new products, Weissman suggested, and some red lines should be drawn before any toy hits the shelf. Perhaps most urgently, Mattel should announce immediately that it will not incorporate AI technology into children's toys, Weissman said. Children do not have the cognitive capacity to distinguish fully between reality and play. Mattel should not leverage its trust with parents to conduct a reckless social experiment on our children by selling toys that incorporate AI, Weissman said. OpenAI declined to comment. Mattel did not immediately respond to R's request for comment. But, it seems so much like one of the Black Mirror episodes there, the one with Miley Cyrus. In Mattel's press release, the toy maker behind brands like Barbie and Hot Wheels remained vague, saying only that the OpenAI deal would support AI-powered products and experiences based on Mattel's brands. The company's chief franchise officer, Josh Silverman, said the collaboration would enable Mattel to reimagine new forms of play, teasing that the first release would be announced by the end of this year. Axios' source suggested it likely wouldn't be sold until 2026. OpenAI's statement also glossed over the details, promising to bring a new dimension of AI-powered innovation and magic to Mattel's iconic brands. Both companies emphasized that safety, privacy, and age appropriateness would be front of mind in designing Mattel's AI products. OpenAI further claimed that kids would only be exposed to positive experiences through the collaboration due to Mattel's experience creating kid-friendly products. By tapping into OpenAI's capabilities, Mattel aims to reimagine how fans can experience and interact with its cherished brands, and with careful consideration to ensure positive, enriching experiences, OpenAI said. Critics on LinkedIn have noted that while the partnership could have positive impacts on kids, like enhancing learning or inclusivity, AI toys also carry a wide variety of potential risks that families should carefully weigh before buying into any new hyped product. In a detailed post, one such tech executive, Varundeep Kaur, warned that parents should be thinking about privacy since AI toys may process kids' voice data, behavioral patterns, and personal preferences. He suggested Mattel may have set its first AI product's age limit at 13 to avoid running afoul of laws that are stricter when it comes to kids' data. OpenAI has said the collaboration will comply with all safety and privacy regulations. Parents should also keep in mind that the bias behind the large language model that fuels AI tools like ChatGPT, Kaur said, which might reproduce subtle stereotypes based on narratives or culturally inappropriate content, even unintentionally, that could skew kids' perspectives or social development. Most obviously, AI models are still prone to hallucination, Kaur noted, and while Mattel's AI toys are unlikely to cause physical harm, toys giving inappropriate or bizarre responses could be confusing or even unsettling for a child, he said. For parents, the emotional ties kids make with AI toys will also need to be monitored, especially since chatbot outputs can be unpredictable. Another LinkedIn user, Adam Dodge, founder of a digital safety company preventing cyber abuse called EndTab, pointed to a lawsuit where a grieving mom alleged her son committed suicide after interacting with hyper-realistic chatbots. These bots encouraged self-harm and engaged her son in sexualized chats, and Dodge suggested that toy makers are similarly wading into dangerous new waters with AI that could possibly communicate dangerous, sexualized, and harmful responses that put kids at risk. This was inevitable, but wow, does it make me cringe, Dodge wrote, noting that Mattel's plan to announce its first product this year seems fast. Dodge said that right now Mattel and OpenAI are saying the right things by emphasizing safety, privacy, and security, but more transparency is needed before parents can rest assured that AI toys are safe. AI is unpredictable, sycophantic, and addictive, Dodge warned. I don't want to be posting a year from now about how a Hot Wheels car encouraged self-harm or that children are in committed romantic relationships with their AI Barbies. Kaur agreed that it's in Mattel's best interest to give parents more information since public trust will be vital for widespread adoption. He recommended that the toy maker submit to independent audits and provide parental controls to reassure parents, as well as clearly outline how data is used, where it is used, who has access to it, and what will happen if their kids' data is breached. For Mattel, a bigger legal threat forcing responsible design and appropriate content filtering may come from an unintentional copyright lawsuit arising from using OpenAI models trained on a wide range of intellectual property. Hollywood studios recently sued one AI company for allowing users to generate images of their most popular characters and would likely be just as litigious defending against AI toys emulating their characters. Again, that is over at arstechnica.com. The New York Post has a new article from Betsy McCaughey titled, "Hooray! America is finally heading toward race and gender fairness." At long last, America is moving toward fairness in hiring, promotions, and college admissions. The latest good news: in a unanimous ruling, the Supreme Court said everyone deserves the same protection from discrimination, including straight white women and men. In the decades since Martin Luther King Jr. called on us to judge people by the content of their character, this country has moved in the opposite direction. Racial preferences, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and quotas favoring women, LGBTQ+, and other groups replaced judging each individual. The average white guy or woman has been getting the shaft in corporate hiring, college admissions, or even becoming a government supplier. But now that's changing. Recent events, including the Trump administration's bold disavowal of DEI and discriminatory practices in hiring and promotion, and the High Court ruling in Ames versus Ohio on Thursday, suggest America is not doomed to be a hopelessly divided caste society where group identity trumps an individual's essence. We are starting to move in the right direction where each individual can succeed on their merits. Malian Ames' win on Thursday is another step forward. Ames, a 61-year-old white heterosexual woman, sued the Ohio Department of Youth Services where she'd worked for 16 years. Despite getting favorable reviews and promotions, in 2020 she was turned down for a higher position that went to a lesbian and then demoted to be replaced by another gay man. She alleged discrimination based on her heterosexuality. Lower federal courts rejected Ames' claim, saying because she is part of a majority group, heterosexual white women, she had a higher burden of proof than a minority would have. But the justices ruled that having different standards for majority and minority groups violates Title VII, the portion of the landmark Civil Rights Act that outlawed workplace discrimination. Ames still has to prove her case in the lower courts, but she will be treated the same as any minority group member alleging discrimination, not facing what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson termed a heightened standard of evidence. The Supreme's ruling will reverberate in federal courts across America in the Sixth Circuit and 4 other circuits, that double standard prevailing until now. Kudos to the top court for rejecting that 2-tiered system of justice. Reverse discrimination is as bad as any other kind. Proving it shouldn't be harder. Amen. We're in a new era that began with the Supreme Court's 2023 rulings striking down reverse discrimination at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. After George Floyd's death in 2020, many companies launched ambitious efforts to diversify their workforces. Though well-intentioned, they caused resentment and violated the nation's bedrock principle of colorblind equality. Justice's ruling against Harvard sent a signal to the corporate world to change course. Credit also goes to politicians, including Donald Trump, consumers, and even corporate shareholders who challenged DEI. Major companies began rolling back their DEI programs. Lowe's was one of the first. Now the company says it wants to be a unifier. Citigroup reported it has dropped diversity, equity, and inclusion from its title of talent management team. Home Depot, Google, Goldman Sachs, and many others have publicly scrapped hiring goals based on race, ethnicity, sex, or gender. It's a big change from the recent past, when a young white man graduating from college had to worry about internships and training programs at the big financial institutions, and other corporate giants wouldn't consider him because of his race and gender. But it's good news for everyone, not just him. The 6 decades of concocted preferences since Martin Luther King's now famous content of their character speech And the harm these preferences caused should teach us that treating people differently based on the group they belong to is a mistake. Discrimination, no matter the group and however well intentioned, inflicts new injustices. As Ames said, we're trying to make this a level playing field for everyone, not just a white woman in Ohio. It's also reassuring that the unanimous opinion in Ames was crafted by Justice Jackson, the most liberal member of the court and herself often considered a DEI pick. It's another sign that America may be coming together on the need to end such distinctions together, whether invidious or virtuous in intent. Again, that's Betsy McCaughey over at New York Post, nypost.com. I wanted to point out a few more quick articles. JustTheNews.com, John Solomon's haunt. FBI gives Congress intel on alleged Chinese plot to create fake mail-in ballots in 2020. Newly declassified intelligence report partially corroborated but was recalled before it could be fully investigated, officials said. FBI Director Kash Patel on Monday evening turned over to Congress an intelligence report raising concerns that China had mass-produced fake U.S. driver's licenses to carry out a scheme to hijack the 2020 election with fake mail-in ballots for Democrat Joe Biden. The newly declassified intelligence reports from August 2020 weren't corroborated or fully investigated and instead were recalled from intelligence agencies at about the time that then FBI Director Chris Wray testified there were no known plots of foreign interference ahead of the 2020 election in which Biden defeated Trump, officials told Just the News. The new articles were turned over to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican from Ohio, who had first raised concerns to the Bureau that the intelligence hadn't been fully vetted and instead was just dismissed even though there was evidence of fake licenses. Thanks to the oversight, work, and partnership of Chairman Grassley, the FBI continues to provide unprecedented transparency at the People's Bureau, Patel told Just the News in a statement. To that end, we have located documents Chairman Grassley requested which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election. Specifically, these include allegations of plans from the CCP to manufacture fake driver's licenses and ship them into the United States for the purpose of facilitating fraudulent mail-in ballots, allegations which, while substantiated, were abruptly recalled and never discussed to the public, Patel said. In accordance with Chairman Grassley's request for documents, I have immediately declassified the material and turned the document over to the chairman for review. Officials who have seen the documents told Just the News that the FBI had relatively new confidential source who provided information in summer 2020 that the Chinese government was manufacturing and exporting fake U.S. driver's licenses as part of the plot to create voter identities for Chinese residents living in the United States, so they could vote with fake mail-in ballots. The intelligence source claimed the plot was specifically designed to benefit Biden, officials said. They also said the intelligence report was recalled within a few weeks and the allegations never fully investigated on the grounds that the source needed to be re-interviewed. But, in fact, another agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, had intercepted nearly 20,000 fake licenses around the time that the intelligence came in a possible corroboration of the report, officials said. That is over at justthenews.com. Rounding out this week's articles is this one from IT Pro today. To thrive in an AI-powered workplace, embrace your human skills. Anyone who's worried about AI taking their job might consider this good news. Employers want your uniquely human behaviors, as reported in HR Drive. Employers are increasingly focused on soft skills during the job hunt, with 60% saying soft skills are more important today than 5 years ago, according to a June 9th report from Test Gorilla. More than 70% of employers said evaluating the whole candidate, both skills, personality, and cultural fit, leads to better results. In fact, 78% said they hired a candidate with strong technical skills who didn't perform well because of a lack of soft skills or cultural fit. So what are soft skills? According to Andrew McCaskill, a career expert at LinkedIn, before answering that question, reframe it. In an interview with CNBC in April of 2025, he said, "We do the skills a disservice by calling them soft skills. These human-centric skills are really game changers as it relates to how we think about the skills you're going to need and work on a regular basis." McCaskill noted that out of the 7 out of the 10 of the skills on the rise in demand on the platform are human-centric skills. And there's more of this article over on No Jitter, and there's a link here as well. I think that especially hearing that Amazon is going to fire a whole bunch of people because AI has just made them so efficient. I think a lot of this has some diminishing returns over time. What makes us human, what makes us special is that we can show empathy and we can care and we can engage with our resources and see if we can solve problems for those callers who just need to talk to a person and not deal with an auto attendant that can't get you where you want to go. The human touch has become kind of a gold mine. I think that I'm maybe more keenly aware of this living here in the South and being exposed to support center environments like that, and knowing that maybe because they're in the South, people come across a lot more friendly and perhaps a little grandmotherly sometimes. Would you like a biscuit with that tea? It's really hard to get angry at someone who's just really that sweet. So if we can teach those skills, if we can focus on those soft skills, and then of course we have to solve problems too. So technical training is important and they have to have the aptitude for it. But we tend to focus on what is the thing that I can get the most out of this head count. And that can be a problem because you're not looking at the whole person anymore. You're maybe looking at someone who flies through work, who isn't very cautious, who gives bad examples or gives bad advice to customers. And we just can't have that if we want quality in our support environments. And this may not be applicable to you in your particular situation, but think about it as it is, as a consumer, as a provider. Are you bringing value to the table that people are willing to expend? They're going to trade their hard work for money that represents time on your behalf. Is it a good trade, fair, or are the prices wrong? Or do we need a little more attention just saying thank you? Those are all things that we need to focus on, even in our personal lives and interactions with our families. Make sure you give them a hug this week. And from the white sand beaches on the Emerald Coast in the free state of Florida on the Gulf of America, this is BACFA. See you next week, everybody. So long.
Thanks for joining us for Atomic Biscuits. Tune in again next week for more news and music. Check out BACFA on Gab at BACFA, as well as Bitchute, Rumble, D-Live and Odysee. Check out LastScoutRadio.com for fun content. Listen to WBN 324 on radio stations around the world, on many streaming platforms, and World Broadcasting Network WBN 324.zil.